Starting week 2, they are going to be a lot more comfortable with you and looking for you for comfort if they are scared with things. Socialization of the day for day 8 would be boots. For day 9 would be a head halter or muzzle. Day 10 would be a slider swing. That's you holding them on your lap while you're on the slider swing. If you can't physically do it, that's fine. Try to get as close as possible. This way they get more comfortable with things that are not normal at all. Day 11 would be all different types of balls, which means basketballs, softballs, soccer balls. Day 12 would be bikes and skateboards. Bikes would be either you putting them in the basket or one of those tow behind trailer things. And skateboards would be you holding the skateboard and them being on it, as well as you possibly letting go, but be careful because they are puppies and you don't want them to fall off and then be scared completely 100%, and never want to go near another skateboard again. Day 13 would be plastic bags, especially plastic bags blowing in the wind. That can spook a lot of dogs. Day 14 would be different types of sirens. You can do that in real life with all the lights and everything if you are close to a police station or maybe possibly a firehouse. If not, you can find recorded sounds on YouTube and you can play it on a low volume while they are eating their dinner in their cage. New things to train this week would be body transitions, which means sit, down, and stand. You want to be able to get them as fast as possible, and you only want to click for the faster ones, or every other one, so that way they don't have to have treats every time they sit or every time they lay down, and just getting them comfortable with being able to go faster with sit, down, and stand, and knowing exactly what you want immediately. Let's Go is a heeling technique where you either turn left or right or turn all the way around and just walk. That gets them more engaged while they're walking, and they have to catch up with you and focus on you to see if we're turning left or right. You don't want to have cues for left or right yet. That will come later on in heeling. Coming when called. Coming when called is this week, and stay is next week, so that way your dog immediately knows that coming when called means now and not when you want to, and stay is later because you're less likely to leave the puppy where they are not ready for yet, because they still have puppy brain, like a lot of puppy brain, so you want to diminish that as much as possible. While you are working on coming when called, you can do it as exciting as possible and click and treat, and if you can, run away from them, but don't do it for a dog that has chasing problems. As well as when you're clicking and treating, when you're giving them the treat, you can grab their collar, so that way they are getting comfortable with you grabbing their collar, and then immediately let go, and then let them giving them your release word and letting them go. Luna's is free, but you can also use break or release, whichever is your release word. That also works for boundary training. For coming when called, when you want to get a faster coming when called, you want to wait for them to, you want to throw a treat, and then when they turn back to get the treat, you want to click and then treat them again. Again, in the house, you should only be working with dog food. I say treat because that's just what my brain does, but you should be using dog food in the house and training treats at parks and parking lots. You can also start implementing a leave it command, which means holding a piece of dog food in your hand and closing it, and waiting for them to ignore it, and then open your hand, and if they don't try to take it, you can give it to them and say, nice, leave it. And then you can slowly transition that into, after a couple of days, you can start adding a cue saying leave it, and then opening your hand and waiting for them to ignore it, basically. If they do try to get the treat out of your hand, you can close your hand again and wait for them to ignore it. Some dogs have a really hard time with it. Luna had a hard time with it in the beginning, and then she got it. And then you can slowly transition those treats from being in your hand to being on the floor, but you still covering it with your hand until they are ignoring the treat. You can also work on touch or target. Luna was very good at this, but my last dog had a problem. If your dog has a problem, you can smear just a tiny amount of maybe peanut butter or rub some treats on your hand, so that way they smell it, and as soon as they smell it, you click and treat as they touch your hand. You want to practice coming when called at least 10 times a day, just randomly. Don't do like 4 in a row and then just doing 6 later. You want to do them randomly so that way they are getting more used to hearing their name and telling them to come closer. Also, you want to continue on in the engage and disengage game. Places to train this week would be parking lots, more parking lots that still have no dogs, unvaccinated dogs or anything. You still want to work on going to the park, as well as a more busier street in your neighborhood if possible. You still want to train. You can start working on more sit, down, and stands and the body transitions in these places, as well as coming when called, and touch in mainly parks, especially parks. You still want to do at least 2 to 3 sessions in the parks, as well as 2 to 3 sessions in a parking lot, so that way they're graduating into more work mode. You still want to do your warm-up routine. Max training minutes this week inside your house is 7 minutes, and in the parks and the parking lots you still want to do 5 minutes, like formal training sessions now, because you want to go there to train. Last week was mostly just socialization and learning how to engage with you. You still want to be really exciting in these areas, so that way they are engaged with you instead of engaging with the environment around them. You also want to work on laying down calmly as much as possible, so that way they can have a off switch later on. Staying there for at least 10 to 15 minutes. You want them to be calm. The timer doesn't start until they are calm. If the timer goes up and they stand up, you have to wait another 3 minutes before they are allowed to be released. You should be playing first before you do any time of laying calmly, because that way they are more likely to settle. You just put them back in a down and just waiting for them to calmly relax, and then starting the timer back over. Again, other things you want to work on this week is meeting 10 to 15 people calmly, visiting 2 parks this week, and at least 2 to 3 new parking lots. Again, at least 2 or 3 different decompression or long line walks where you only treat them for engaging with you. You still don't want to train on these walks. At least 3 half block to 3/4 of a block healing training sessions. Take it as slow as you need again. You want to work on positive play sessions still with the toy trading game, as well as trading toys and chew things for different things. You still want to work on being handled and groomed, so that way they're getting more comfortable with you, and other people possibly starting to do it, like your dad or your sister or anybody else, and other friends as well. You can still work on boundary training, working and waiting for the cage to open, waiting for their food, waiting for the door to open. They should still be on a potty schedule. The potty schedule should be at least until they're 3 or 4 months old, because that's when dogs are more likely to stop. Most dogs aren't even completely potty trained until at least 6 months, because they don't have full control of their bladder. However, you should be on top of it and make sure they're not going to the bathroom in the house. You should still be working on preventing bad dog behaviors like play biting, potty training, crate training, resource guarding, barking, jumping, chewing, digging, chasing, separation anxiety, and begging. If you are having any problems with any training stuff, you can leave it in the comments and I will try to get back to you as fast as possible.